It is now my honor to introduce this morning's graduation speaker. A graduate of the University of Delaware and Syracuse Law School, Mr. Biden became one of the youngest people ever elected to the United States Senate at age 29, representing the state of Delaware. During his 36 years in the Senate, he established himself as a leader on some of our nation's most important domestic and international challenges, serving as chairman or ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, where he played a pivotal role in shaping U.S. foreign policy. He has been at the forefront of issues and legislation related to terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, post-Cold War Europe, the Middle East, and Southwest Asia. Now, as the 47th Vice President of the United States, Mr. Biden has continued his leadership on important issues facing the nation, drawing on his foreign policy experience and advising the President on a multitude of international issues. He has long been an advocate and supporter of the armed forces of the United States, traveling to Iraq and Afghanistan numerous times in this past decade. Mr. Vice President, we are truly honored to have you with us this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a warm West Point welcome for the Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Joe Biden.
Thank you, General. Class of 216, man, you're a good-looking bunch. I want to start off by acknowledging, although I'm Irish, I am not Dempsey and I cannot sing. I almost requested, though, Soup, as I walked in, and on my walk out today, I almost requested they play Tsunami. I thought it might really get the party started. I just wasn't sure this stadium could take it. But I did advise the Secret Service, that guarding the BP motorcade to watch out for flying printers. I hope to hell whoever was responsible for that printer didn't branch field artillery. Y'all have earned a reputation. 1,000-person pillow fights. At least your class didn't end your class didn't end with a lot of concussions. These younger guys aren't as quick, you know. Mosh pits during Beast. Sounds like you guys haven't taken the idea of military discipline as anything more than a light suggestion. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, soldiers, officers, faculty, staff of the United States Military Academy, moms, dads, grandparents, brothers, sisters, welcome, and thanks for welcoming me here. But I want to tell you, I have an ulterior motive. This is the second great opportunity I've had to do this. But there's a special part today that gives me great pleasure. Governor Chris Christie is here. Congressman Chairman Ed Royce is here. And Senator Chambliss, whose grandson's graduating today, is here. I really wanted to do this to force these three Republicans to actually have to listen to me make a speech. That's the real reason. That's the real reason I'm here. Actually, I consider all three friends, and I hope they consider me friends. Chris and I graduated from the University of Delaware, and Chairman Royce and I continue to work together on matters related to national intelligence and foreign policy. And Saxby Chambliss, I miss him. He's one of the great guys and a great friend. And Saxby, again, special congratulations to you. Grandson graduated today. Class of 2016, I'm honored to be here on Armed Forces Day to once again address the largest and latest graduating class in a long gray line. A line that reaches back 214 years and is woven through the very fabric of the nation. I'd be remiss if I didn't start today by again thanking the parents. I don't want to thank you for being available on the phone. I want to thank you for molding, and I mean this sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for molding such patriots. Thank you for molding young women and men with a value set that is the essence of who we are as Americans. Thank you, thank you, thank you for teaching them to put something before self. Thank you for what you did. And I know it's a little bittersweet today. It's got to be a little bittersweet. But a little bit like on that first day in June when they said you got 60 seconds to say goodbye in Eisenhower Hall on our day. You know, I realize for some of you, today comes with mixed emotions, but I'm confident, all you parents and grandparents, that the overriding emotion is one of incredible pride in their unimpeachable character, their bravery, their unwavering determination, and in the accomplishments of your daughters and your sons. We are proud of them as well, but we're also proud of you, parents, and I mean that sincerely. Thank you. The nation thanks you. My mom used to have an expression, Sue. She'd say, children tend to become that which you expect of them. She was deadly earnest about it. Children tend to become that which you expect of them. You expected a lot of these young women and men, and you got it. You know, cadets, you made it. When you arrived here 4 years ago, you were among the most promising and most committed students in the entire country. You had an opportunity to go anywhere you wanted to go. And today, you leave as the most promising second lieutenants in the greatest fighting force in the history of the world. That's not hyperbole. It's not a joke. It's not just some nationalist thing to say. You're about to join the greatest fighting force and group of warriors in the history of the world. And you could have chosen from among the most elite civilian colleges in the country, but you chose West Point. You chose to use your talent in the service of your country. Although there's probably a few times you've questioned that choice. Like the first hour when they whipped out those buzz shears and cut off your hair. Probably a couple of you wondered whether you're going to have any years left. Or maybe around the 8th try to get it right when you reported to the cadet in the red sash. Or maybe the first time you called minutes when the upperclassman was standing 6 inches from your face. But you stuck it out, you made it. And think of all the fond memories you'll take with you. Every time you get caught in a cold rain, you'll flash back to the late night walk back up and down the side of a mountain in your cadet leader development training. That wonderful time you had. Every time you get a lung full of dust, you'll have that wonderful memory of the first lap around Hayes Gym hauling the medicine ball through an indoor obstacle course. And every time you hear the name Bassett, you'll think, how in the hell did he do it? And he did it twice. Broke the record twice. And you did it all without your own firstie club. Talk about hardship, being jammed with the cows. I mean, what the hell? Soup, what's going on here, man? What'd you do? Do we have to get another appropriation or something here? Right? No, man. I don't know, man. Talk about hardship. But the results are self-evident. The United States Military Academy has forged you into warriors, strategists, and with a bond that will never be broken. For the rest of your life, and I've witnessed this in my 25 trips into Bosnia during the war, my over 20 trips into Iraq and Afghanistan, half a dozen, 9 times, I guess. It's amazing what I see. And for the graduates, the Academy graduates who work with me today and have worked with me for the last 40 years, wherever you go, you'll feel the bond, not just to the classmates sitting next to you. You'll be able to tell by the way they grip your hand, by the way you get looked in the eye, when you get asked, can I help you? You too are part of the long gray line, but there's thousands of others out there, brothers and sisters, who will always have your back. You have joined the most elite fraternity and sorority in the United States of America. They've never met you, but they know you before you arrive. And now, with the power invested in me by the President Barack Obama, I hereby absolve all cadets who are on restriction for minor conduct offenses. All cadets. Damn, I wish they had that when I graduated. I could have really used it. Class of 2016, no generation gets to choose the world into which they graduate. You enter a history that's already been written for you by others. Since 9/11, we've seen a generation of heroes step forward. 5 million signed up to serve, knowing full well they were likely to be sent into harm's way. 2.77 million deployments, many times multiple deployments, including 23 combat veterans graduating today. Will you 23 please stand up? Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Something special about that. They've seen it. They've been there. And they said, send me, Lord, send me back. Let me go to the academy so I can go back and serve my country and my colleagues. But now it's your time to write history. It's a different world. Globalization, digitalization, artificial intelligence, failed states, stateless actors. And America's going to need all your skills to face this incredibly more complex and interconnected world. You're going to need every tool your predecessors possessed when they walked out of the Mikey on graduation day, but you're going to need more. And you've been trained to possess more. You're going to need to ensure the United States is prepared to deter aggression and defend America's interests in the face of regional powers. Regional powers are investing billions of dollars in an attempt to erode our conventional military advantages and to challenge us in the domains of cyber and outer space. Yet you'll be still called to hunt down terrorists, insurgents, criminal networks whose barbaric tactics that are centuries old, but also have learned how to employ high-tech tools like drones and the internet. To fight the battles of tomorrow, you'll need to lead platoons of infantrymen and tankers and teams with next-generation technologies like unmanned systems and autonomous machines. You'll need to dominate the cyber realm as you do the physical one. You'll need to confront ISIL on the ground as well as online. They possess the most sophisticated recruiting tool in the history of the world. And as barbaric as their conduct, they've learned. The good thing and the bad thing about advanced technology is it gives immense power to stateless actors. Backstage, I got to meet and congratulate the cadets who brought home the win for West Point at this year's cyber defense exercise. You beat Navy, by the way. But this isn't just a celebration of a competition. They know, and every parent should know, how critically important their skills are to the future of our national security. When I was coming up, graduating into the Vietnam War, no one worried that someone 18,000 miles away might be able to knock out our entire electrical grid, or that a nation would develop the capability to potentially take out our satellites that affect the command and control, and the list goes on. But some of you will be soft forces, you'll lead special operators in clandestine and specific missions. Others will be in charge of building the capacity of emerging countries to improve stability and provide for their own security. Stability that we need improved because it undermines our stability when regions of the world are in chaos. And still others of you will have to manage the tremendous challenges and humanitarian crises posed by climate change, mass migration, and the spread of infectious disease. Your parents are probably saying, what is he talking about? Every single crisis we have faced, we turn to the young women and men you've trained. Ebola, other diseases, bird flu. Today, these challenges really stay distant. They go viral. You've been trained to be more nimble, more multidimensional. You understand that although we'll never hesitate when necessary to use our force to secure our vital interests, the United States is strongest when we draw on all the instruments of our power, including our economic might, our diplomatic reach, our developmental work, our networks of unparalleled alliances, our dynamic and innovative people. You know it, but they had to train you to understand all of it, all pieces of it. I was asked not long ago in an interview to name the 10 most consequential people I've met in my 42-year career. 6 of them were wearing uniforms. They weren't just warriors. They were diplomats in a uniform. All your knowledge and all your skills will be called upon, including your knowledge of foreign policy. You'll need to assess the underlying challenges that seed instability. You'll be drawing on the help, believe it or not, of a USAID worker or a foreign assistance program. The great military leaders I've worked with over the last 40 years are not only warriors, as I said, they're diplomats. Whether on my dozens of trips, I think I was in 24 times into Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Kosovo. During that war, over 20 trips into Iraq, or multiple trips into Afghanistan. I've never been, every single time I've gone, I've been awed, General Milley, by the depth, I mean this sincerely, by the depth and breadth of the capabilities of these young women and men you train. I can't tell you how often I sit in in the Situation Room. The President and I spend more time in the Situation Room than any other place, literally, not figuratively. Many times with General Milley. In video teleconferences, being briefed by our combatant commanders in the field. Listening to not only his judgment on the military situation, but looking to that combatant commander to give us a political analysis of the circumstances in the region and on the ground. It's not enough to know how many troops you're training in Afghanistan. It's critical to know what the Pakistani intelligence service is doing, and whether or not the president of Pakistan has any control. It's critical to know whether a body in Afghanistan is able to control solder in order to determine when you deploy, if you deploy, who you deploy. Is the government going to be able to hold together politically? Do we have the right partners at the table? But it's not just combatant commanders. Whether I've been in the upper Konar Valley in Afghanistan, or in Fallujah in the middle of the war, or in Pristina, or in Srebrenica, it's young second lieutenants making critical decisions. You'd be amazed, parents. I wish you could see these kids, these young men and women. I've been standing in the middle of an abandoned neighborhood in the Republic of Srpska, being briefed on all the homes laid out like a development in the United States. Empty. This young captain is explaining what's going on. All of a sudden, there's a family coming down with pitchforks and axes. Literally, not figuratively. And he said, excuse me, at that time I was a senator. Excuse me, Senator. He runs 2 blocks. And he confronts this family coming down the street. They turn around and go back. I asked him, what was that all about? He said, sir, they're about to go to that corner house. A group of Bosniaks moved in when the Serbs abandoned it. They're coming back to claim their house. I said, what'd you do? He said, well, the first thing I could think of doing was tell them, give me a couple hours, I'll get them out of the house into another abandoned house and get them their house. We're sitting in the school in Iraq after we just built a water system. 300 people packed in the school like it was some kind of school board meeting, except these were the sheikhs and others. And a young first lieutenant standing there running the meeting as if he were a local elected mayor, literally keeping a war from occurring on those streets by deciding how to get a PCV pipe under a road into another neighborhood which wasn't supposed to get the water. These aren't unusual responsibilities for soldiers today, but they're important, man. They're going to save your troops. They're going to save the people in your command. You'll carry out missions you may not have trained for. As I said, like battling back in the Ebola crisis. I'm sure you remember the headlines from that time, 2 years ago. It was predicted hundreds were dying daily, thousands were infected, and it was predicted this could be a worldwide humanitarian crisis, up to 1 million people in Africa dying. What did we do? It required a concerted American leadership to turn the tide. World Health Program didn't make it. I remember sitting with the president in the Situation Room, not a joke, looking at the Dempsey. He said, sir, the military can do it. The military can do it. So we turned to you. We pulled resources from across the government, but the military was the tip of the spear, building the air bridge, facilitating transportation and logistics, setting up treatment units, working alongside civilian medical volunteers to oversee the operation. We turned to the head of AFRICOM, a guy we were talking about a moment ago, and a good friend of mine, David Rodriguez, class of '76. And he did it. He did it. To kick off the operation in Libya to keep our troops safe, we turned first to Major General Darrell Williams, class of '83. And assuredly among those leading the companies and platoons executing our strategy on the ground were many more, quote, old grads. So it shouldn't come as a shock that to absolutely no one that we broke the trajectory of the infection, averted a worst-case scenario, projections of 1 million dead in Africa, and tens of thousands maybe in America. As we continue to face these kinds of transnational challenges, we continue to undertake a more diverse range of missions. We must also tap into a broader range of skills than any previous era. We need to harness the genius of the American people and all our diversity. I can't tell you what problems you'll be asked to solve, but they won't be able to solve them alone. And the chances of success are always higher when everyone on the team brings something different to the table. To meet these tests of our changing world, we need the best soldiers, the best hackers, the best engineers, the best doctors, the best of everyone. So if you got a skill and the toughness and the desire and the drive to serve your country, you are welcome in the armed forces of the United States of America. The only question should ever be asked is, can this person do the job? That's where we lifted combat restrictions on that limited career advancement opportunities for women. And in a short while, for the first time in history, 7 female graduates of West Point will be commissioned into the combat arms branches of the United States Army. As the number of women rise at West Point, and General Mamilio, I was a young senator, 30 years old. I was among the first people to ever appoint a woman to West Point, and God did cause a firestorm. Oh, you think I'm kidding? It's not. But I knew then what you all knew now. We have to raise and open more opportunities. I expect we'll see more and more women follow into the infantry armor. And the numbers going up. By the way, 16% of your class is women and 22% of this plebe class this year is women. Having women and men together in the battlefield is an incredible asset, particularly when you're going to be asked to lead teams in parts of the world with fundamentally different cultural expectations and norms. You've been trained here by your professors and teachers to know that certain things you can do in villages in Afghanistan, you can't do in Iraq, that you can do in Syria, that you can't do in Mali. It matters. We can't afford to leave the talents of any individual on the sidelines. The needs are too great, our challenges are too large, and that's why we ended the politics of discrimination against the LGBT members of the armed services with discarding don't ask, don't tell. Ladies and gentlemen, E.J. Coleman, your first captain and class president, is only the 3rd cadet in the history of West Point to hold both those roles. His name will live alongside John J. Pershing's and Pete Dawkins as the only other 2. And not long ago, he took the lessons you've learned here about being authentic to heart and had the courage the public could come out to General Castle. 6 years ago, E.J. would have been discharged from the Army, and we'd have lost an incredible talent. Thanks for your courage, E.J., for your leadership, and I expect we're going to hear big things from you, pal. There's another benefit. Having a force as diverse as our nation, one that I've seen over and over as I've traveled the world. America is strongest when we lead not only by the power of our example, but by the example of our power. My son, Major Bo Biden, who I lost last year, was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. At the same time, he served in the Army National Guard. In 2008, on condition that he would not be associated any longer with his office, he was given permission to join his unit as a brigade trial counsel in Iraq. A year later, he came home a decorated soldier, awarded the Bronze Star of the Legion of Merit, the Delaware Conspicuous Service Cross. For Bo, everything was about service. And the first time he deployed, it was as a civilian before 9/11. He volunteered as a federal prosecutor to go to Kosovo in the middle of that war to help set up a criminal justice system. And while there, I went over to visit him. And I was going up to Fort Bonsteel, which was just being built. And as we drove up a rugged road out of Pristina on a hill with our tires spinning with a Kosovar driver, we got halfway up the mountain. They're literally cutting the top of the mountain off to put on an airfield and barracks. And my Kosovar driver turned back to us and looked out the window. He looked up and he said, "America, America." And he was talking about the cranes and the phenomenal engineering capability. This is an absolutely true story. My word is abiding. I turned at the post. We had a red and white post covering this mud road. And I pointed to the people standing next there by the shack. I said, "No, that's America." There was a sergeant who was an African American. Standing next to him was another sergeant that was Hispanic. Standing next to him was a lieutenant. Was a woman. Standing next to him was a one-star black general. I said, "That's America. And until you understand it, you'll never have peace." Think of the places we're being sent to fight. They're in countries that are divided based on ethnicity, religion, race. So our example matters. In so many places, so many people, you are the face of this generation. I have my schedule in my hand every day. At 5 o'clock, my office calls the Department of Defense, and there's a little black box here. And it says daily troop update. And a list, the number of troops died in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's 6,745, not 6,700, 6,745. Because every one of those fallen angels represents a whole community back home. U.S. troops wounded, 52,392, not over 53,000. And over 300,000 coming home with unseen wounds. We have an obligation to treat the rest of their lives. How powerful a message when the face that we show truly reflects how proud, how inclusive, how awesome our ideals are. That's America. So class of 216, I've served in high public office for over 40 years. I've worked with 8 presidents, 14 secretaries of state, 16 secretaries of defense. And I've observed whenever our nation is facing tough challenges, whenever the stakes are highest, we turn to the United States military and the United States Army. Whether it's fighting terrorism, training our partners, reassuring our allies, halting the outbreak of disease, or providing humanitarian relief, we call you. And right now, the stakes could not be higher. We have to keep America safe, both at home and abroad, Americans. We have to protect the arteries of global commerce that are the lifeblood for our economy. We have to defend universal human rights and stand up for our values against those who seek to erode democracy around the world. And mindful of all the sacrifices we honor next week on Memorial Day and the remainder of every day, we're counting on you, and it's not hyperbole, we're counting on you to lead America's sons and daughters wherever we send them into harm's way. Our country is entrusting you with an incredible responsibility, because we know that whatever challenges lie ahead, you're up to it. You're better equipped, you're more diverse, trained for success. Like every West Point graduate ahead of you, you now mark the 72,800 graduate from this great place. You're tough as nails. I can't predict everything that will be required of you in your careers, but I do know that'll be the most challenging and most rewarding work you could ever undertake. I know it will require the best of you, and I know without a doubt that each of you will rise to the occasion. Few people your age are ever put in a position of leading so many so early in your careers. Think about it. Imagine if you went into the corporate world. Can you imagine any corporation giving you control of as much billions of dollars worth of equipment? Men's and women's lives. Happens nowhere but here. Your soldiers will not all have the same personal histories, but like all of you, they will have decided, because it's a volunteer army, they're dedicated and prepared to defend their country. They're going to look to you. Shortly, when you're going to be looked to for your example, how you lead, how you treat them. You'll be their counselors and confidants, and some will be considerably older than you. You'll care for all of your soldiers and all of their families. This is going to require not only a sound mind, but a great heart and a real dose of humility. Class of 2016, you've chosen the motto that embodies the core of West Point training. With honor, we lead. Hold on to that as you face the challenges ahead. Lead with honor, no matter the uncertainties. For honor will be your North Star. If you'll allow me one final point of personal privilege, I want to say that I brought today my grandson with me. He's about to go into 5th grade next year. He's the son of my deceased son. I brought him with me when I spoke here 4 years ago because Bo's military service was among the things he was proudest of in his life. At the end of the ceremony, you all throw your hats up. Without my knowing, little Hunter, then 4 years younger, ran out and grabbed a hat. We were riding back in Air Force 2 afterwards. He looked at me and he pulled it. I said, "Pop, I'm going to West Point. I'm going to West Point." So, there's only one thing I can say. Go Army! Beat David! Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great honor to speak to you today. I'm proud of you as we all are. God bless you all and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Class 2016, the United States Military Academy. I'd like to present you with a small token of our appreciation for sharing your remarks with us today. Thank you very much, sir.
Good luck to you, man. Thank you all very much. It's a great honor.